What's going on, YouTube? So pickup trucks are constantly the best-selling vehicles in the US, but not everybody needs a full-size truck. And that's where trucks like this Ford Maverick come into play, which was just heavily updated for 2025. So after living with this model for an entire week, do we think this is a great buy? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now let's start off here with our spec dump. So under the hood, you're going to find a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, and this is producing 238 horsepower. It's going to be paired to a 7-speed automatic transmission for the Lobo only. We of course have all-wheel drive, and our combined fuel economy is 24 mpg for this example.
Now the base price for the Maverick this year is $26,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we're going to be taking it out for a spin later on in this test drive, and while we're on that spin, we'll be doing things like getting our sound level reading, as well as discussing the real-world fuel economy we experienced this week, and if we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood so we can look at some of the 2025 enhancements Ford has made to the exterior design and the cabin. Now starting out here with the exterior, like I was just saying, they did heavily update this model for 2025. And this is a truck that has a lot of different variations. Really, Ford is great about giving each different trim level its own character and its own design. Now, I will mention what we have with us today. This is the Lobo, so this is a new trim level this year. And this model is basically designed to be a sport truck. So while we're going to be talking a lot about kind of general Maverick things, this is kind of a distinct trim level in the sense of the design being lowered by a 1/2 of an inch, and it also has a very aggressive, kind of wider look to the vehicle. Now, all the models are going to get updated lighting this year, so we've got projector LED low and high beam headlights starting at this trim and moving up. You also have this brand new daytime running light, which kind of brackets around, although your turn signal remains incandescent. This one does also have fog lights as well, which is something that a lot of automakers are eliminating. Wheel sizes on the Maverick vary from 17 inches to 19 inches. This is one of the 19-inch options. It's an available gloss black alloy with the multi-spoke design. I think it looks really, really nice and pops against the pearly white paint that we have on today's sample. Lobo does have enhanced brakes, by the way. We'll talk more about that during the driving section. Got some badging right there. And as far as the mirrors are concerned, you do have to go up the trim structure quite a bit, to get blind spot monitoring as well as heating, since this is an affordable truck.
Now at the side of the Ford Maverick, our overall vehicle length is 199.8 inches. So that is a decent size for a vehicle, although it is going to be on the smaller end for a truck. And as far as the platform, of course, this is a unibody platform, so it does share its foundation with vehicles like a Ford Escape or a Ford Bronco Sport. Now, as far as some design touches, you may be able to see this, but the Lobo actually has a black painted roof, so that's really going to add a lot of contrast to the overall vehicle design, especially if you choose the white model like what we have today. And then moving around to the rear of the Maverick, Ford didn't update this area too much for the refresh, so you're going to have that typical truck design. I think that was really a good move because it's just a nice look overall. So you have a little bit of matte black through here, blacked out Ford branding. Maverick is stamped into the tailgate. And then looking at our taillights, these are going to be an incandescent halogen style taillight unit. So as you can see, we have the incandescent brake light, turn signal, and reverse light. So that's a little disappointing. I wish that was LED. But as far as the lower fascia is concerned with the Lobo, all of this is going to be a body color. You will also notice that we have a tow hitch right here. That's because we have the towing package. The towing package gives you a 4,000-pound tow rating, and it's newly available on both the hybrid and the gas engine setups. And let's take a look at the bed while we're back here. So if I lower the tailgate, I do want to point out it is not a dampened tailgate. But looking back in the bed itself, I didn't mention this already, but all versions of the Maverick are the same configuration. So that does mean you have a crew cab body setup with this 4.5-foot bed. So it's going to be across the board, but overall, I think 4.5 feet is going to be enough for most people's needs, especially if you're shopping in the small truck segment. And as far as features are concerned, they do give you quite a few. So a spray-in bed liner is standard on the Lariat trims and above. And as you can see, we even have the rails along the sides for different types of tie-downs. We also have some lighting in the bed itself. And then over there on the left-hand side, you will additionally find an outlet as well. So you can power some of your tools and accessories. You even have cool things like a bottle opener. And if this is not long enough of a bed for you, Ford does offer different accessories that will kind of extend your bed out. When it comes to your safety systems, Ford is including 2 out of your 4 active safety features as standard equipment. And if you choose at least this Lobo trim, you'll actually have all 4 active safety features as standard equipment. So that will include things like adaptive cruise control. But guys, we need to go ahead and dive into the interior because there's a lot to talk about there when it comes to living with this truck. But first,
If you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12 and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point. No matter what you're looking for, from our long-term vehicle videos to our side-by-side comparisons, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move on to the inside. First, of course, here's our key fob. Typical Ford key fob. We've got the smart entry system and the remote start. That's optioned onto this model, or it's standard on the Lariat. And then to get inside, just grab behind the handle. That will unlock the door, of course. Now, taking a look inside this interior. This is a very functional cabin. And before we get into, some individual details of that, I want to start off by talking about the seats. As an affordable truck, your standard seat is going to be cloth, as well as your next level up. But once you get to the Lobo, you're going to get Active X leatherette. So that's what we're looking at right here. It's a pretty realistic faux leather. I also like the unique elements for Lobo duty, including the 2-color stitch going on, and we also have kind of what Ford calls like a street art inspired seat design, so it kind of has like graffiti splashes basically throughout with a little bit of color. It's a really nice touch, which I think matches nicely with the character of the truck. Now, as far as the seats themselves, you're going to have a power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support on your upper end examples, and we'll go ahead and climb on inside. Now, as far as the rest of the materials are concerned, we do have some enhancements for 2025 and kind of the overall quality. And looking at the door trim, you'll see the leatherette, first of all, right through there for your arm to rest against. Top part is going to be a textured hard touch plastic. All of this is kind of finished in this blue color, which is pretty unique and adds a little bit of character. More of that will go across the top. We have this textured plastic that runs through the center section. Little splashes of the blue accenting here on the Lobo for our vents. And then down here we have our very functional center console, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The push button start is integrated right here. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Now, before we jump into some of the individual impressions of the interior, I do want to mention that we already have a Maverick review live on the channel. In that review, we really dig into what equipment you get on each trim level. This review, like I said, I want to focus kind of more on overall living with impressions. But, if you want to learn some more about that, you can always check out that review instead. Now, in terms of our gauge cluster, we have the newly standard digital gauge cluster for all the models. That's an 8-inch display. You can change several different kinds of information inside. It's quite premium overall for a vehicle in this price point. And then as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got the latest design for the Ford brand. It's the same two stitching colors going on through the steering wheel. It does have a nice feel in the hand, plus you have paddle shifters on the back of it, manual tilt and telescoping, and it is heated as well. But I think it's very important for us to talk about interior storage, because first of all, this is a small truck, but Ford has done an excellent job at making this not feel like a small truck from your lived-in experience in the cabin. So beginning with our center console, you notice we have some donuts inside. That's because here at Car Confections, that's our logo, we like to do the donut test to check the volume of the center console. And today we have in here 13 donuts. So a baker's dozen, it definitely passes the donut test, which is quite impressive because this is deep. However, we still have a lot more that goes on from there. So you have this cubby, another cubby, 2 cup holders. You got this big storage bin, which has kind of a couple purposes. This side obviously is a wireless phone charging pad, but this side here seems actually designed to just hold your phone upright, which is kind of nice. You also have your connections right above it as well. And then the door storage has proven to be very versatile this year. You can see that they actually designed it for the explicit purpose of being able to accommodate tall water bottles, such as the one that Mason brought along today. So as you can see, that fits in there just right with the way that the armrest is actually structured. Now the shifter is nice and small, out of the way. It's the rotary style. You can press the M there for manual shifting with those paddles I was mentioning earlier. And then since we have on this Lobo the high version, which comes with additional equipment, we have the 360-degree camera system. Pretty nice resolution to this backup camera. You can change some of your views right there. And then twist a P for park. You have an electronic parking brake as well right behind that. Now, as we move on above, let's take a look at the next section. We've got some physical controls here for mostly the audio controls. Now, one thing I do want to point out is you can see this is the Pro Trailer Backup. This comes down from the F-150. So it's a nice feature that they've included, but I kind of disagree with the arrangement of these buttons. Definitely throughout the course of the week, both Mason and I were trying to grab this to adjust the volume. The volume knob is actually over here, so I kind of wish they would have changed that because you use this way more often than you use this. Nevertheless, what we have on board is the available Bang & Olufsen sound system, so let's give it a sample. So this small truck makes pretty big noise. This sound system is really quite good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it actually is. It really fills up the cabin nicely, and it's a pretty balanced sound quality as well. All right, so next up, we've got our main screen. So this measures in at 13.2 inches, and inside of it, you have your climate controls at the bottom. So now you've got the controls built into the screen itself. So adjusting is as simple as just pressing those arrows. Some additional functions are located right there. Overall, we didn't find it to be too hard to deal with those controls. You also have 3-stage heated seats, which have an automatic ability to sync with the climate controls. Ventilated seats, though, are not available. As far as the system itself, it has been upgraded to Sync 4, but it's not Ford's latest and greatest. So their latest and greatest is what you get in like the Explorer and the Expedition. It's their digital interface. That is going to be a lot snappier than Sync 4. So overall, you have all the main functionality that you want with this, especially wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is what we're running in right now. This, by the way, can be expanded to take up the whole screen. But you can just definitely notice a little bit of lag when you do different things like switch the radio station and kind of bounce between menus. This is not the fastest infotainment system out there. Oh, by the way, more storage up here as well. We've got the manual dimming mirror. And we have optioned on the available sunroof. As you can see, this is a traditional style unit with a manual sunshade. And you do have the little pop-up there to help the wind from buffering in.
And now let's talk about the Maverick Lobo's rear seat. Now, when it comes to this, honestly, this week we've been very impressed. And the reason for that is because you can easily haul 4 people in here, maybe even 5, very comfortably, which is honestly kind of rare, especially as you move up the truck structure to like a mid-size body-on-frame truck. The rear seats get really small, such as the Tacoma, so I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised with the rear space. Now, as far as the actual numbers that Ford cites, we are sitting at 37 inches of legroom and about 39.5 inches of headroom. So those are really fantastic numbers. Like I said, those are bigger than something like a Toyota Tacoma. Of course, we brought the official Car Confections ruler along today so we can see how much realistic knee room you can have. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". I'm 5'9". And we are sitting at a solid 5 inches of additional room. My feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat. And for an affordable vehicle, these rear seats are actually quite comfortable, which is certainly not a given. If we fold down the center armrest, we do have 2 cup holders inside. If you like the rear opening glass, we do have power rear opening glass, and that's standard on your higher end examples of the Maverick. Now, as far as the features here in the center, we actually have a household style outlet, so I'm surprised to see that, as well as 2 USB-C ports. And then if you look over at the door trim, it is going to be basic. It's going to be a lot of hard touch, but we do have a leatherette armrest pad, and we have the same door storage as in the front. So that easily means that you can swallow up multiple bottles or store whatever you need in that door trim. Now, if you want to store things underneath of the seat, you will have to get out because it is just one entire piece here. And as you can see, when you lift that up, there's a ton of space underneath of there, plenty of room for really whatever you're going to need to bring along for the journey. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Ford Maverick. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting our sound level reading and talking about our real-world fuel economy. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration because this is the Lobo after all.
So that was an acceleration over 60 miles an hour. And this Lobo stands for, well, it has a meaning in Spanish. I think it means wolf, but in the context of the Maverick lineup, it means high performance. Didn't want you guys to think I meant that literally. We've said things like that, and then people were like, well, actually. Now, let's talk a little bit about the power. So to recap with what we said at the spec dump, this, of course, is the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. We have 238 horsepower on board, and you don't really get more power with the Lobo, but overall, it feels very quick when you accelerate for a little truck. That's for sure. Yeah, 275 pound-feet of torque. So that is really, honestly, quite good. And, like I said, this vehicle's mission is not necessarily straight line acceleration, being like knock your socks off, but it's definitely quick. And I think you will appreciate that. We've certainly appreciated that as we've, lived with this vehicle for the past week. It's quick enough and it's a lot of fun. Now, I do want to point out that the Lobo is this engine exclusive. That's just the standard option, a 2-liter with all-wheel drive. However, the standard option across all of the Mavericks this year is the hybrid. So it was previously standard, and then they got rid of the hybrid as being standard, and then now it's back for the 2025 model year. If you want that, that is going to be a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder, 191 horsepower, 155 pound-feet of torque. That is, going to significantly be slower than this, but of course you are getting a benefit when it comes to your fuel economy. We'll discuss that a little bit later. Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, it's going to vary depending on which trim level you choose. Continuously variable transmission will be with the hybrid. 8-speed automatic will be with most of the 2-liter turbos, but the Lobo actually has a 7-speed automatic. It is technically kind of the same transmission with a gear removed, just to kind of help with that overall performance.
Yeah, so Ford said that would give it better ratios, and throughout this week we've been pretty pleasantly surprised with how the transmission performs. It is pretty good. You'll see that demonstrated as we take it out on a back road and talk about dynamics. But this model is all-wheel drive exclusive with the 2-liter engine. You can also get front-wheel drive with the hybrid option as far as how power is routed to the ground. Let's also take a second here to discuss overall ride quality for the Maverick. Now, when it comes to the Lobo, this vehicle is definitely on the sportier side. So as you can see right there, as we went over the bridge, you will feel some of that intrusion penetrate into the cabin. There are different versions of the Maverick that will give you a more luxurious ride. The Lariat, for example, or the Trimmer will have a little bit of a softer sprung suspension, so keep that in mind. Although, I will say, after living with it this week, I haven't really found this suspension setup to be problematic. It's not going to like jar your teeth out or anything. It's perfectly fine for most people. Alrighty here, so now we have pulled out on our designated strip of road to be getting our sound level reading. I'm going to go ahead and toggle us to fan speed 1 to make sure that the climate is nice and quiet. And once we get up to 55 miles per hour, I'll go ahead and get our sound level reading. 56.1 decibels is what we are sitting at for this Maverick Lobo. Now, we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to the competition because we can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, and we've looked at all the compact and mid-size trucks out there to see how quiet they are. Now, as far as how that compares to the competition, that's actually going to place it very much on the quieter end. We've tested out quite a lot in this segment, and these do tend to be your louder vehicles, things like the Ford Ranger, the Toyota Tacoma. Those are going to be coming in, in the upper 50s. So honestly, that's a pretty good sound level reading. That's for sure.
Now we made it out to a back road, and we can talk a little bit about performance now. So I just put it into sport mode. You might be able to hear the difference and how much the artificial sound is dialed up for this. But the rest of the experience is far from artificial. Ford has really made some big enhancements. If you didn't know better, you would probably just think, they just kind of put a body kit on this, right? No. They did actually really enhance the performance. When you go around a corner like that, this thing stays exceptionally flat. They have really managed the body roll with the updated suspension. And then the steering has been heavily revised as well. So this is quite athletic. You don't even have to be in the sport mode, and it has much more steering heft, and most importantly, as soon as you turn off center, you get that immediate response. This is very agile feeling. It definitely has this hot hatch kind of feel that, of course, Ford doesn't have that in the US anymore. So this is kind of the closest we get to the traditional hot hatch.
Yeah, this is like a Focus ST, except it has a bed on the back, which is, of course, quite cool because this is a very practical vehicle, and we had never driven the Lobo before they dropped this one off this week, and I was almost blown away by how fun this is to drive. I was not expecting it to be as fun as it is. And let's quickly talk about fuel economy as well. So I'll give you the EPA ratings first. If you choose the hybrid, it gets 38 miles per gallon. That is a really good, that's with the front-wheel drive, 37 with all-wheel drive. The 2-liter model is rated at 25 mpg combined. Now, as far as our real-world fuel economy this week, so far we've put on about 100 and something miles driving. We were sitting right around the 20 mpg mark, which is close to the city rating. However, we will be putting some more highway miles on this vehicle actually tomorrow on the weekend. So we'll go ahead and insert a picture after we get all of the miles finalized on this model, but we are sitting right around that 20 mpg mark for the city. 19.2. But we have been driving pretty spiritedly because this is a fun vehicle to drive. All right, and let's do airball and slam dunk. Drew, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with the slam dunk?
So the slam dunk is going to be the interior packaging. They've really done a great job of making something that's a small truck feel big on the inside, with lots of nooks and crannies and things that are very useful in your everyday life with it. Side note, if we're talking about the Lobo specifically, obviously that's got to be the performance enhancements that are legit performance enhancements.
Yeah. On the airball side of things, after living with this model, we really couldn't come up with a ton. So what we're going to say is the design certainly is controversial. The Lobo is not my favorite when it comes to the look of this model on the outside, but some of you guys may love this. And then the license plate in the back, that just kind of drives me insane. The fact that it's off-centered, I understand they have to put the tow hitch somewhere, but it is certainly kind of driving me nuts this week that the license plate is off-center in the back. And because of those very nitpicky airball items, I think it goes without saying that we certainly have enjoyed living with this Maverick Lobo a lot more than we thought we would this week. This is a fun package to drive overall. The inside, they've really improved the technology, and it also is a very practical space to just spend time, especially for a small truck like this. And let's talk pricing. So one of the most attractive things about this Maverick is the price. And yes, it has crept up over the years. However, the prices don't rise too much this year. So we're still starting at $26,000 for the XL with front-wheel drive. This Lobo trim starts at $35,000, and the top-end trimmer is $40,195 as a starting point. Now, as Drew said, throughout this video, we actually have the Lobo High, so that means we pretty much have fully loaded equipment plus the Lobo trim level. That means we carry a more expensive base price of $40,750. We have a look like $100 option, $1,595 destination. So all told, we're sitting at $42,445, which pretty much represents the highest end point that you can get a Maverick, which in today's market is really not all that bad. Now, if you're looking to buy a Ford Maverick or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you want to take advantage of that, we do have a link to that in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle was about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Ford Maverick's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 48.8% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 20.9%. Now, it's worth noting those are pretty good resale value percentages. It's right at that industry average. It is less than other brands that you may be cross-shopping with, though, such as Hyundai and Toyota. Those are going to definitely be on the higher end.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies on reliability from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, when updated to our latest 2025 data, Ford is rated above the overall industry average for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values or reliability information, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty on the Maverick, that is going to be a 3-year, 36,000-mile basic warranty and a powertrain warranty of 5 years and 60,000 miles. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the refreshed 2025 Ford Maverick. If you enjoyed listening to our 7-day impressions after living with this model, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to get the latest car reviews such as this. You're also going to get our 7-day reviews after we live with a vehicle, and so much more. You won't want to miss out, so definitely hit that subscribe button down below. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.